again. Wow. Valley West students, how are you today? Today, I think we're going to talk about plants get sick. You know, just like humans get sick, plants get sick too. You know what? I'm glad you guys showed up. So let's look at how do we know why our plants are sick and what's going on. First, let me say, plants don't make people sick. And people don't make plants sick. I'm not going to give a cold to a plant, so don't worry about that. But we do need to know what's going on with our plants so we can figure it out. Well, what do? We just talked about that the other day, IPM. So you scout. That's one of the cornerstones is scouting and knowing what's going on with your plants. So plants can either be sick or plants can be injured. So what do I mean by injured? Did someone do tip cuttings or trimmings and they didn't go quite right? Did somebody outside do mechanical injury with the lawnmower or a weed trimmer? That really happens a lot out in the landscape. Was the light too bright in the greenhouse and cause a leaf to be burned? So those are what are referred to as biotic, so non-living. So the abiotic is a pathogen. So those are the two different types. There is the biotic and the abiotic. So what are there for the abiotic? Because in our greenhouse, that's really what's going on more than a mechanical injury in the greenhouse. So the three most common or heavy hitters that we're going to encounter in our greenhouse environment are viruses, bacteria, and fungi or fungus. So those are the three heavy hitters. Viruses are the hardest to treat because viruses like to be sneaky and they enter the host and they actually have a protein coat on them. So the plant really can't notice it because of that protein coat. But once it gets inside of a plant's tissue, it lets that protein coat break down and then it starts assimilating itself. Viruses live on the plant, it's its host, and eventually the plant dies if you don't diagnose and try to take care of it. The other are bacteria. Bacteria live on plants and they produce enzymes that break down plant tissue. And then the third are fungi. Yeah, like that stuff you find on your bread when you left the bread out too long, and it gets that little fuzzy look to it, and it has all those long tendrils. That's actually called mycelium, and that is how fungus gets into a plant. It either seeks a hole or a break in the plant, or it can enter through the stomata. We talked about those. Remember, those are the gas exchange holes on a leaf. So once that gets in, then it starts to produce enzymes also, because fungi does not produce its own food and it has to live off of the food that the plant is making. So those are your three heavy hitters. Those are the ones that we really are going to encounter in here. In the landscape, you might find something called nematodes. They are microscopic. They look like little miniature worms underneath a microscope, but they're not worms. And they can infiltrate into the tissue and do root rot or form what are called galls, and they're like little round golf balls, and it kind of distorts the way the plant grows. And then the last one are parasitic higher plants. So these are plants that grow on other plants, hence the word parasitic. So it lives off of that plant and eventually it overtakes and kills that plant. So those two are more that you would find outside in the landscape. So how do we combat these? So you need to break the development of the disease, and it's known as a triangle. So if you look in your reading, you'll see that there is a triangle, and there's a pathogen, the environment, and then the host. So you need to have a susceptible host, a virulent pathogen, and an environment that encourages that disease or pathogen to flourish and grow. So how do we do that? We break the cycle. So the first stage of it is inoculation. And then it gains entrance, like I said, into the plant and starts breaking down the tissue. It establishes within that plant, and then eventually it is able to spread itself to the surrounding plants. So it's really important in your scouting in your greenhouse to look and find those plants and you rogue them out, or you remove them from that area and you watch the surrounding plants. Sometimes you can catch it early enough and it doesn't spread. Other times you need to treat the whole table, or in some cases the whole greenhouse. So how do we break the cycle? Again, our IPM strategies. So you scout, proper identification, and then you do your target to try to stop whatever is going on. In some cases, you have to throw some of those plants away that are more infected. So, you know, we want to grow and we want to produce as much as we can. So I always say, you know what, I'd rather have a half a loaf of bread than no bread at all. So if you have to rogue some out, that's what you have to do. But as growers, our aim is to produce the best crop that we can. So in your reading, you'll see that there are 7 symptoms to look for in your plants. And I'm not going to go through all 7 of them. This is a really huge lesson, and if we were in school, ideally I would break it up over a whole week and then we could really delve into each part of it. But I'm here today just to say hi and give you a synopsis of it so that we can practice this when we get back together again. So most of those changes of those 7, you're going to look for changes in your plant tissue. So that means are there death? Is there a death on the nodes? Is there death of the fruit or the flower and it's dropping off? Are your buds twisted? Are your leaves twisted and curled? So those are indications that you have something going on. And finally, do you have yellowing or black spots? Those are also indicators. And each one of those indicators will lead you to a different type of synopsis of what's going on. So like the black spots, that's called necrosis, and it's called black spot disease, and you would treat it a different way than you would possibly yellowing, which might be a fertilizer problem. So the idea is look at it, see what's going on, and then do a little bit of research on it. Don't just jump right away. It's a little bit different if you're looking at insects. So the 2 insects that we battle the most in the greenhouse are aphids and whiteflies, and you guys will learn about those when you come back. Those are the 2, so you would treat those differently. So that about sums it up. We will be back here on Friday, alrighty? So let's just say enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for stopping by. See ya. Keep learning.